Clark Griswold's disastrous Christmas became a holiday tradition for millions. But behind the falling lights and exploding turkeys lies a nightmare of near-death accidents, studio sabotage, and secrets so shocking they were buried for decades. What you're about to discover will forever change how you watch this beloved comedy. 20. Chevy Chase broke his hand punching a real wall during the attic scene. Chevy Chase actually broke 2 bones in his right hand when he punched through a wall during the attic scene, refusing medical attention for 3 days because he didn't want production shut down and losing feeling in his fingers for nearly 6 months afterward. The scene required Clark to become increasingly frustrated while trapped in a freezing attic, culminating in his punching the wall in rage. Director Jeremiah Chichik wanted authentic reactions and encouraged Chase to really commit physically. The production built a breakaway wall designed to shatter easily when struck, but construction crew members accidentally reinforced it with additional plywood that wasn't supposed to be there. When Chase threw his punch during the first take, expecting the wall to crumble, his fist instead connected with solid wood. The sound of bones cracking was audible to the entire crew. Chase screamed in genuine pain, but stayed in character, continuing the scene while his hands swelled visibly. Chichik kept the cameras rolling, believing Chase was acting. When the take ended, Chase's hand was already turning purple and twice its standard size. The medic on set wanted to call an ambulance immediately, but Chase refused, insisting they finish the sequence. He completed 3 more hours of filming with a broken hand, taking aspirin between takes and hiding his injury from producers. That night, alone in his hotel room, Chase finally went to an emergency room, where x-rays revealed fractures in his 4th and 5th metacarpals. Doctors wanted to put his hand in a cast immediately, but Chase negotiated a splint that could be hidden under gloves or removed for close-up shots. He filmed the rest of the movie with a broken hand, never telling Warner Brothers executives about the injury because he feared they'd halt production and potentially replace him. 19. Beverly D'Angelo was pregnant during filming and hiding it from everyone.
I don't know what to say except it's Christmas and we're all in misery.
Ellen, are you smoking again?
No!
Beverly D'Angelo was 3 months pregnant during principal photography and concealed her condition from the studio, the director, and even Chevy Chase, terrified that Warner Brothers would fire her and recast Ellen Griswold if they discovered the truth. D'Angelo had just begun a relationship with Italian director Lorenzo Salviati when she learned she was pregnant weeks before Christmas Vacation started filming.
I got pregnant at age 48, and then I had twins. And a few years later, I was looking at my landscape as a single mom. And I'm from the...
She faced an impossible choice: tell the studio and likely lose the role, or hide the pregnancy and hope she could finish filming before anyone noticed. She chose secrecy, wearing increasingly elaborate costumes designed to conceal her growing belly. Costume designer Carol Ramsey unknowingly became D'Angelo's accomplice, creating loose-fitting sweaters and strategic layers that disguised her changing body. D'Angelo suffered severe morning sickness throughout production, often vomiting between takes and blaming it on food poisoning or flu. She avoided craft services, bringing her own bland food that wouldn't trigger nausea. Close-up scenes became torture as she fought to keep her face from showing the exhaustion and discomfort. Chase noticed something was wrong and asked repeatedly if she was okay. D'Angelo deflected every question, creating elaborate lies about stress and insomnia. The physical demands of the role, the sledding scene, the attic sequence, the shopping mall chaos put both her and her pregnancy at risk. Stunt coordinators pushed her to perform physically demanding action that could have caused a miscarriage. She complied, terrified that refusing would raise suspicions. By the final week of shooting, D'Angelo was nearly 4 months pregnant and barely fitting into her costumes. The moment production wrapped, she immediately told Warner Brothers the truth. Executives were furious, but the film was completed and there was nothing they could do. D'Angelo gave birth to her daughter in 1990, never regretting her decision to hide the pregnancy, but admitting the stress nearly destroyed her health. 18. Randy Quaid was hospitalized twice during the RV sewage scene. Randy Quaid suffered chemical burns and a severe infection from the sewage scene, where Cousin Eddie empties the RV toilet into a storm drain, requiring 2 separate hospitalizations, and nearly dying from septic shock when production used real waste instead of the safe movie prop planned. The script called for Eddie to empty his RV's chemical toilet directly into Clark's suburban storm drain, creating a visual gag about his complete lack of awareness. The special effects team designed a safe mixture of chocolate pudding, pea soup, and blue dye that would look disgusting, but remain harmless. The night before filming, someone made an unauthorized decision to use actual RV waste collected from a local campground to make the scene more authentic. Nobody informed Quaid or the safety coordinator about the change. When cameras rolled and the valve opened, real sewage splashed directly onto Quaid's legs, shoes, and hands. He immediately smelled that something was wrong, but continued the scene professionally. Within hours of wrapping, Quaid developed a burning rash on his legs where the waste had made contact. By that evening, he had a fever of 103 degrees. He spent the night in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center being treated for chemical burns and a bacterial infection. Doctors cleaned and bandaged his wounds, pumped him full of antibiotics, and released him the next morning. Quaid returned to set that afternoon, insisting the show must go on. But 3 days later, the B-Cindy infection had spread despite antibiotic treatment. Quaid collapsed on set, unconscious from septic shock. He was rushed back to the hospital, where doctors discovered the original infection had entered his bloodstream. He spent 5 days in intensive care fighting for his life, while production shut down completely. Warner Brothers faced potential criminal charges for workplace safety violations. Quaid eventually recovered, but retained permanent scarring on his legs from the chemical burns. 17. The squirrel scene. Required over 200 takes and injured multiple crew members. The iconic squirrel sequence where a wild animal emerges from the Christmas tree required over 200 takes across 5 days of filming, resulted in dozens of crew members being bitten or scratched, and caused a rodent infestation in the soundstage that lasted for months after production wrapped. Director Jeremiah Chichik wanted to use real squirrels rather than animatronics or CGI, believing that practical effects would make the scene funnier and more chaotic. Animal wranglers brought in 20 trained squirrels, assuring everyone the animals were docile and controllable. They were wrong. Squirrels are fundamentally untrainable and became increasingly agitated under hot studio lights. The first take resulted in a squirrel biting a camera operator hard enough to draw blood. The second take saw another squirrel escape entirely, disappearing into the soundstage rafters. By the 10th take, the wranglers had lost control of multiple animals simultaneously. Production halted while crew members with nets tried to recapture escaped squirrels running wild through the set. Chevy Chase was bitten 3 times. Beverly D'Angelo, secretly pregnant, was terrified a squirrel would attack her stomach. Randy Quaid actually enjoyed the chaos, laughing hysterically between takes even when squirrels scratched his arms. The scene that appears in the final film is the least disastrous, edited together from 5 days of absolute mayhem. After filming concluded, at least 6 squirrels remained loose in the soundstage, having found hiding spots the wranglers couldn't access. For months afterward, crew members working on other productions at that facility reported sightings of squirrels and evidence of nesting. Warner Brothers eventually paid for professional exterminators to clear the building, but a rumor persists that descendants of those Christmas vacation squirrels still inhabit the studio lot. 16. John Hughes wrote the script. In just 4 days, while on vacation,
Think of John Hughes as a director of all those movies that we grew up with.
Yeah.
He also wrote Home Alone, Home Alone 2. He wrote Vacation.
The best movies of all time.
I know,
Yeah.
that's like the montage clip of
Yes.
our whole adolescence.
John Hughes wrote the entire Christmas Vacation screenplay in a cocaine-fueled 4-day marathon while vacationing in New York, producing 112 pages of material without sleeping and suffering a minor heart episode that sent him to the emergency room immediately after typing the final page. Hughes wrote the original Vacation film in 1983 and its sequel, European Vacation, in 1985. Still, he'd grown tired of the Griswold franchise and initially refused when Warner Brothers requested another installment. The studio offered him an unprecedented amount of money and complete creative control. Hughes accepted but procrastinated for months, repeatedly missing his deadline. Finally, with the studio threatening to hire another writer and production scheduled to begin in weeks, Hughes checked into the Plaza Hotel in December 1987 with a typewriter, a bottle of bourbon, and enough cocaine to fuel a small nightclub. His plan was to write the script in 1 week. Instead, he became obsessed with finishing as quickly as possible, treating the screenplay like a creative sprint. He started writing at 6 p.m. on a Friday night and didn't stop until Tuesday morning. Room service brought meals he barely touched. The hotel's night manager grew concerned about the constant typewriter, clacking at 3 a.m. Hughes later described the experience as channeling Clark Griswold's manic energy directly onto the page. By Sunday, he'd been awake for over 40 hours and was experiencing auditory hallucinations. By Monday night, his heart was racing uncontrollably, and he felt sharp pains in his chest. He kept typing, convinced he would die if he stopped before finishing. When he completed the final page at 7:12 a.m. Tuesday morning, Hughes immediately called an ambulance. Paramedics found him semi-conscious in his hotel room, his heart rate dangerously elevated. He spent 6 hours in a Manhattan emergency room, being treated for what doctors called a cardiac event brought on by extreme exhaustion and substance abuse. 15. The exploding cat scene was real, and PETA tried to stop the film's release. The scene where the Griswold's cat gets electrocuted by Christmas lights used an actual cat fitted with electrical wires, resulting in the animal suffering burns and seizures that led to PETA organizing nationwide protests, demanding the film be banned from theaters entirely. The original script called for the cat to bite through a strand of Christmas lights and get shocked, creating a visual gag where its skeleton briefly becomes visible. The American Humane Association, which monitors animal safety on film sets, initially approved the scene using animatronics, but director Jeremiah Chichik believed the animatronic cat looked fake and unconvincing. He pressured the special effects team to make it more real, which they interpreted as permission to use an actual animal with low-voltage electrical effects. The cat, whose name was Whiskers, was fitted with a harness containing battery-powered LED lights designed to flash when activated, creating the illusion of electricity without actual current. During the first take, the harness malfunctioned, delivering a genuine electrical shock to the cat. Whiskers screamed, convulsed, and went limp. The animal handler immediately grabbed the cat and rushed it off set. Filming stopped. While a veterinarian examined Whiskers, finding second-degree burns on the animal's back and signs of neurological distress, the vet recommended the cat be taken to an emergency animal hospital immediately, but production was behind schedule, and Chaychik wanted the shot completed. Against the vet's advice, they tried again with a different cat and a supposedly fixed harness. When PETA investigators obtained leaked footage of the incident months later, they launched a massive campaign against Warner Brothers, organizing protests at theaters and demanding criminal charges against everyone involved. The studio settled quietly out of court, paying undisclosed damages and promising stricter animal welfare protocols on future productions. 14. Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo had a secret affair that almost destroyed both their marriages.
It just shows you it's all okay. We've always had good chemistry. We've been through just about everything two people can be through without being married. You can really see.
Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo began a secret affair during Christmas vacation that continued for over a year, nearly destroying both their marriages and creating such intense guilt that Chase entered rehab for prescription drug addiction he developed while trying to cope with the emotional fallout. Chase was married to his third wife, Janie Luke, while D'Angelo was involved with Lorenzo Salviati and was secretly pregnant with his child. Despite these circumstances, Chase and D'Angelo developed an intense connection during filming that crossed professional boundaries. Cast and crew members noticed the chemistry between them seemed unusually authentic. They spent excessive time together, off camera, rehearsing scenes that didn't require rehearsal, and having long private conversations in their trailers. The affair began during night shoots in late November 1988, when Chase and D'Angelo were filming the attic scene. Between takes, alone in the mock attic set, they kissed for the first time. The relationship escalated quickly, despite both knowing it was professionally and personally catastrophic. They met secretly at hotels, lied to their partners about their whereabouts, and became consumed with guilt and anxiety. Chase started taking Valium to sleep, then increased his dosage to manage the stress of lying constantly. D'Angelo's pregnancy complicated everything. She was carrying another man's child while having an affair with her co-star. When production wrapped, they promised to end the affair and never speak of it again. Instead, it continued for 13 more months. Chase's drug use escalated as the lying became unbearable. He was taking up to 20 Valium pills daily by mid-1990. His wife discovered the affair through credit card receipts for hotel rooms. The confrontation was devastating, nearly ending their marriage. Chase checked into the Betty Ford Center in 1990, citing addiction, but privately acknowledging the affair's role in his breakdown. 13. The lights scene. Nearly caused a citywide power outage.
Meantime, I can light the Santa and the 8 tiny reindeer and the Merry Christmas sign. That should look good. Ready?
You want me to do the drum roll thing?
The famous scene where Clark illuminates 25. 1,000 Christmas lights simultaneously caused a massive power surge that affected 3 city blocks in the San Fernando Valley and came within seconds of triggering a complete electrical grid failure that would have blacked out half of Los Angeles. The production's electrical department calculated they needed enormous amounts of power to light all the practical bulbs strung around the house, set built on a studio backlot. They arranged with the local utility company to draw extra power during the scheduled night shoot. But the calculations were wrong by a factor of 3. When lighting director Robert Benton gave the signal to turn on all lights simultaneously for the master shot, the electrical draw was 3 times greater than anticipated. Circuit breakers throughout the neighborhood began tripping. Traffic lights went dark, homes lost power. The local electrical substation experienced a dangerous surge that nearly fried its transformers. Power company engineers at the station literally ran to emergency shutdown switches to prevent the rise from cascading through the grid. They succeeded with less than 5 seconds to spare before the entire system would have crashed. Meanwhile, on set, nobody realized the catastrophe they had nearly caused. The lights came on perfectly, illuminating the house in a spectacular display that looked exactly as Jeremiah Chichik envisioned. Cast and crew cheered and applauded the effect. Only when angry phone calls from the power company and affected residents started flooding Warner Brothers did anyone understand the problem. The studio paid over $300,000 in compensation to the utility company and affected customers. Engineers spent the next week reinforcing the local grid and installing dedicated transformers to handle the production's power needs. For subsequent takes, they used a combination of practical lights and visual effects to reduce the actual electrical load. 12. Randy Quaid. Improvised. Almost all of Cousin Eddie's dialogue. Randy Quaid threw out approximately 70% of John Hughes's scripted dialogue for Cousin Eddie, improvising his most iconic lines, including "Shitter's full," "that there's an RV," and the entire Jell-O mold speech, creating friction with Chevy Chase, who felt upstaged and complained to the director repeatedly. Hughes wrote Cousin Eddie as a minor supporting character, with limited screen time and straightforward comedic lines. Quaid saw an opportunity to create something bigger and weirder. From his first day on set, he began ad-libbing extensively, adding bizarre details and strange line readings that transformed Eddie into a grotesque but somehow lovable caricature. Jeremiah Chichik loved the improvisations and encouraged Quaid to keep experimenting. Chase, accustomed to being the comedic center of every scene, bristled at Quaid's scene stealing. He complained to Chichik that Quaid was ruining the script and making the film about Cousin Eddie, instead of Clark. Chichik ignored these complaints, recognizing that Quaid's instincts were making the character memorable. The "Shitter's full" line, which became the film's most quoted moment, was improvised entirely during the RV sewage scene. Hughes' script called for Eddie to say, "The toilet's emptied now, Clark." Quaid delivered that line for the master shot, then asked if he could try something different. His first alternate take was "Shitter's full," delivered with complete sincerity. The entire crew erupted in laughter. Chichik knew immediately that was the line they'd use. Chase was furious, arguing the line was crude and would get the film an R rating. He demanded it be cut. Chichik not only kept it, but built the scene around it, making it the punchline. Their relationship remained tense throughout production, with Chase referring to Quaid dismissively as "that guy who hijacks my scenes." 11. The sled scene sent 3 stunt performers to the hospital.
Remember, don't try this at home, kids. I am a professional. Later, dudes. Later, Rip.
The sledding sequence, where Clark's super lubricated saucer sends him careening through traffic, required 16 different stunt performers over 4 days of filming, resulted in 3 hospitalizations, including one performer suffering a fractured skull, and nearly killed Chevy Chase when he insisted on performing the final shot himself without safety equipment. The scene called for Clark to be sledding down a massive hill, achieving impossible speeds and crashing through various obstacles before ending up in a Walmart parking lot. Stunt coordinator Dick Zeker designed an elaborate series of stunts featuring professional sledders, carefully crafted camera angles, and controlled environments to create the illusion of a single continuous wild ride. The actual hill was far less steep than it appeared on film, with the sled secretly motorized to increase speed. But Jeremiah Chichik wasn't satisfied with how safe and controlled everything looked. He wanted genuine danger and real fear visible on screen. He ordered the hill made steeper and the sled's motor more powerful. Against Zeiker's strong objections, speeds increased from 15 miles per hour to over 35. The first stunt performer lost control immediately, crashed into a tree, and suffered a separated shoulder. The second performer made it further down the hill before hitting an unexpected bump that launched him into the air. He landed badly, fracturing 3 ribs. The third performer completed most of the run successfully, but couldn't stop at the bottom, crashing through a wooden barrier at full speed. His helmet cracked, and he was knocked unconscious with a severe concussion that would later be diagnosed as a fractured skull. After the third injury, the stunt union threatened to pull all performers from the production. Chase, watching from the sidelines and possibly motivated by ego and competition with Randy Quaid, announced he would do the final shot himself. Zeker refused to coordinate it. Chase did it anyway, surviving by pure luck when he crashed into a foam-covered barrier that prevented serious injury. 10. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was fired and replaced. Mid-production,
Looks like the toad overestimated the height of his living room ceiling.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus was originally cast as Margot Chester and filmed 2 weeks of scenes before being fired and replaced by Julia Sweeney after Chevy Chase complained she was too aggressive and threatened to quit if she remained in the role. Louis-Dreyfus, fresh off Saturday Night Live and not yet cast in Seinfeld, approached Margot as a sharp-tongued antagonist who genuinely hated the Griswolds. Her performance was acidic and mean-spirited in ways that made test audiences uncomfortable. Chase watched dailies and told Jeremiah Chichik that Louis-Dreyfus was ruining the film's tone, making it too dark and hostile. He wanted someone softer who would make Margot annoying rather than villainous. When Chichik defended Louis-Dreyfus's choices, Chase went directly to Warner Brothers executives and threatened to walk unless she was replaced. The studio sided with their star, firing Louis-Dreyfus and recasting with Sweeney, who brought a lighter touch to the role. Louis-Dreyfus was devastated and humiliated, later calling it the lowest point of her career. She received full payment, but no screen credit. Years later, after Seinfeld made her a superstar, she admitted that the experience taught her about Hollywood politics and the disposability of actors without leverage. 9. The turkey explosion was an unplanned accident that injured the director. The iconic exploding turkey was supposed to be a controlled special effect using compressed air and fake bird parts. but the explosion mechanism malfunctioned and detonated with 3 times the intended force, sending shrapnel that struck Jeremiah Chachik in the face and temporarily blinded him in one eye. Special effects coordinator Bob Shelley designed a turkey rig with internal chambers that would burst when triggered, spraying pre-cooked turkey chunks in a comedic fountain. The effect was tested successfully multiple times with the correct amount of compressed air. But during the actual take, someone accidentally connected the wrong air compressor, an industrial unit used for other set construction that operated at far higher pressure. When Randy Quaid triggered the turkey explosion, it detonated like a bomb. Turkey fragments flew in all directions at dangerous velocities. One large piece struck Chachik directly in his left eye as he stood next to the camera. He fell backward, screaming and clutching his face. Blood poured from the wound. Filming stopped immediately as the set medic rushed to help. Chachik was transported to the hospital, where doctors removed turkey bone fragments embedded in his eyelid. His cornea was scratched, but not permanently damaged. He wore an eye patch for 2 weeks and experienced blurred vision for months. Despite the injury, the footage was spectacular, and Chachik insisted it be used in the final cut. 8. Beverly D'Angelo's coat, in the sled scene, caught fire.
Nothing to worry about, Eddie. Going for a new amateur recreational saucer sled land speed.
Beverly D'Angelo's winter coat caught fire during the sledding scene when friction from the high-speed sled created enough heat to ignite the synthetic fur lining, requiring crew members to tackle her and smother the flames. At the same time, cameras continued rolling because nobody realized what was happening. The sled sequence required D'Angelo to ride behind Chevy Chase on the motorized saucer, holding on to him as they descended the hill at increasing speed. Her heavy winter coat had a polyester fur collar that hung loosely around her neck. As the sled accelerated past 30 miles per hour, the coat's collar began to drag against the sled's surface. The friction generated intense heat. Within seconds, the synthetic material began smoldering, then ignited into open flame. D'Angelo felt heat on her neck, but thought it was just wind chill. She didn't realize she was literally on fire until she smelled burning plastic. By then, flames were spreading up the collar toward her hair. She screamed, alerting the crew. 2 safety coordinators sprinted onto the course and tackled her off the sled, rolling her in the snow to extinguish the fire. The back of her coat was destroyed, and she suffered minor burns on her neck and shoulder. Incredibly, the cameras captured the entire incident, and Jeremiah Chachik considered using the footage with digital effects to remove the flames, believing D'Angelo's genuine terror would enhance the scene's comedy. 7. John Hughes never visited the set and refused to watch dailies.
John Hughes wrote it, and it's John Hughes, that brilliant genius from Chicago who had those Midwestern values. You know,
John Hughes never once visited the Christmas Vacation set during the entire production and refused to watch any dailies or rough cuts, telling friends he was ashamed of the script and wished he'd never written it because he believed it represented his artistic sellout to corporate Hollywood. After his cocaine-fueled writing marathon and subsequent hospitalization, Hughes entered a period of deep depression and self-reflection about his career choices. He'd written Christmas Vacation purely for money, not because he had a genuine creative passion for another Griswold story. When production began, Warner Brothers invited him to set multiple times. He declined every invitation. Jeremiah Chachik called him with questions about character motivations and scene interpretations. Hughes told him to figure it out himself. Cast members wanted to meet the legendary writer behind the script. Hughes avoided them altogether. His agent grew concerned about his disengagement and mental health. By the time filming wrapped, Hughes still hadn't seen a single frame of footage. When the studio screened a rough cut and requested his notes, he sent a 1-sentence response: "Do whatever you want." Friends later revealed that Hughes was wrestling with feelings of artistic compromise and selling out, believing he'd wasted his talent on formulaic studio comedies instead of pursuing more meaningful projects. He never publicly discussed Christmas Vacation in favorable terms and excluded it from his personal list of significant works. 6. The pool scene, nearly drowned, Johnny Galecki.
Where palm trees sway
Johnny Galecki, playing Rusty Griswold, nearly drowned during the swimming pool scene when he slipped on ice surrounding the empty pool, fell 15 feet onto the concrete bottom, and was knocked unconscious. At the same time, crew members initially thought he was acting and didn't immediately respond to save him. The scene required Rusty to slip and fall toward the frozen pool. Production dug a real in-ground pool on the backlot and drained it, leaving just the concrete shell surrounded by ice and fake snow. Safety coordinators installed foam padding at the bottom to cushion accidental falls, but the padding was only 2 inches thick over solid concrete. During rehearsals, Galecki successfully performed the slip multiple times without incident, but during the actual take, his foot caught real ice instead of the fake ice prop, sending him tumbling forward with unexpected force. He flipped over the edge and fell headfirst into the pool. His head struck the concrete with a sickening crack that everyone heard. He lay motionless at the bottom. For nearly 10 seconds, nobody moved because they thought Galecki was performing the bit. Then someone realized he wasn't moving at all. 3 crew members jumped into the pool and found Galecki unconscious with a head wound bleeding profusely. Paramedics were called immediately. He regained consciousness before the ambulance arrived, but had no memory of the fall. He was diagnosed with a severe concussion and required stitches for the head laceration. 5. Warner Brothers. Cut. 15 minutes of footage for being too dark. Warner Brothers. Executives cut over 15 minutes of finished footage from Christmas Vacation's final cut because test audiences found certain scenes too dark and disturbing, including an extended sequence where Clark has a complete mental breakdown and contemplates suicide in his garage. John Hughes's original script contained many bleaker moments showing Clark's psychological deterioration as every Christmas plan fails. The deleted footage included Clark sitting alone in his garage at 3 a.m., staring at his chainsaw and seriously considering ending his life. The scene featured no dialogue, just Chevy Chase's face showing genuine despair and defeat as he contemplated how his family would be better off without him. Another cut scene showed Clark drinking an entire bottle of whiskey alone while crying about his failures as a husband and father. A third deleted sequence depicted him screaming at his children with such rage that Audrey and Rusty locked themselves in a bedroom, terrified. Test audiences in suburban markets responded negatively to these moments, writing on the comment cards that the film became too depressing and not funny anymore. Warner Brothers executives panicked, fearing they'd invested millions in a Christmas comedy that would send audiences home miserable. They ordered extensive cuts to lighten the tone. Jeremiah Chichik fought the decision, arguing that Clark's darkness made his eventual triumph more meaningful. The studio overruled him. All contemplative scenes showing genuine depression were removed, leaving only the slapstick comedy and surface-level frustration. 4. Chevy Chase and Randy Quaid refused to film together after a physical fight. Chevy Chase and Randy Quaid got into a violent physical altercation during the final week of filming that resulted in both actors refusing to appear in scenes together, forcing the production to use body doubles and creative editing to complete sequences requiring both characters. The tension between Chase and Quaid over the scene-stealing improvisations had been building throughout production. During a late-night shoot in December 1988, Chase made a sarcastic comment about Quaid's lack of formal training, calling him a lucky amateur. Quaid responded by mocking Chase's declining career and Saturday Night Live legacy. Chase shoved Quaid. Quaid shoved back harder. Within seconds, they were throwing punches in front of a horrified cast and crew. Security guards pulled them apart, but not before Chase suffered a split lip and Quaid had a black eye. Both actors retreated to their trailers and refused to emerge. Jeremiah Chichik spent hours negotiating with each separately, trying to convince them to finish the film professionally. They both agreed to continue, but only if they never had to share a scene again. For the remaining days of production, whenever Clark and Eddie appeared together, one was actually a stand-in filmed from behind or at a distance. Close-ups were shot separately with each actor playing to space. The editing room stitched everything together seamlessly. On the final day of shooting, both actors left immediately without saying goodbye. 3. The film's original ending showed the Griswold house burning down.
Alarm, holiday emergency here. We're gonna press on, and we're gonna have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny fucking Kaye. And when Santa squeezes his fat white...
Christmas Vacation's original ending, fully filmed and scored, showed the Griswold house accidentally catching fire and burning to the ground on Christmas morning, leaving the family homeless but together, before Warner Brothers demanded reshoots, creating the happy ending audiences know today. John Hughes' script concluded with Clark's electrical chaos causing a catastrophic fire that destroyed their home. The family escapes safely, but watches from the snow-covered lawn as firefighters battle the blaze. The final scene showed them sitting in Cousin Eddie's RV on Christmas afternoon, eating gas station sandwiches and acknowledging that material possessions don't matter when you have family. Hughes believed this ending provided genuine emotional catharsis and separated the film from generic comedies with safe, predictable conclusions. Test audiences hated it overwhelmingly. Comment cards used words like devastating, horrible, and worst Christmas movie ever. Parents complained that their children cried during the ending. Warner Brothers executives watched the test screening in horror, realizing they'd made a Christmas film that ended with a house burning down. They demanded immediate reshoots. Hughes refused to write new scenes, so the studio hired another writer to craft the bonus check resolution. The reshoot cost over $500,000 and required reassembling the cast for an additional week. The original ending footage was locked in studio vaults for decades before finally being released as a special feature on anniversary editions. 2. Maude's actress Diane Ladd was battling cancer. During filming,
you were told that your mother only had 6 months to live.
Yeah, they didn't know what they could do except...
Diane Ladd was secretly fighting advanced ovarian cancer during production and filming her scenes while undergoing aggressive chemotherapy, never telling anyone on set about her diagnosis because she feared being replaced and needing the income to pay for her medical treatment. Ladd was diagnosed 3 months before shooting for Christmas Vacation began. Doctors recommended immediate surgery followed by intensive chemotherapy. She had no health insurance and was barely surviving financially. The Christmas Vacation role, though small, paid enough to cover several months of medical bills. She made the dangerous decision to delay surgery and hide her illness from the production. Between shooting days, she underwent chemotherapy sessions that left her violently ill, exhausted, and losing her hair. She wore wigs on set that no one questioned, assuming they were a costume choice for elderly Aunt Bethany. The physical demands of filming while fighting cancer nearly killed her. She collapsed in her trailer multiple times from dehydration and weakness. Her daughter, Laura Dern, already an established actress, visited the set and was horrified by her mother's condition, but respected her decision to continue working. Ladd's performance as the confused, senile aunt was influenced by her chemotherapy brain fog. Many of her bewildered line readings were genuine confusion rather than acting. She completed filming in January 1989 and immediately underwent the delayed surgery. She survived, but later admitted she came close to dying multiple times during production. 1. The film's budget nearly tripled due to Chevy Chase's demands. Christmas Vacation's budget exploded from $7 million to nearly $20 million, primarily due to Chevy Chase's contract demands, excessive retakes, and luxury accommodations that included a full-time personal chef, a private gym trailer, and a contractual requirement that he never work more than 6 hours per day regardless of production needs. Chase's contract, negotiated when he still had significant leverage from his success in Caddyshack and Fletch, contained clauses that production managers called the most expensive in Hollywood. Beyond his $3 million salary, Chase required Warner Brothers to provide a custom 45-foot trailer with bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, and entertainment system. He demanded a personal trainer and masseuse on set daily. His contract limited his working hours to 6 per day, forcing production to extend from 8 weeks to 14 weeks. Most costly were his perfectionist tendencies and frequent demands for retakes. Chase would complete scenes successfully, then days later decide he wanted them reshot with different line readings or blocking. Each reshoot costs tens of thousands in crew overtime and location fees. The squirrel scene's 200 takes were largely due to Chase being unsatisfied with his performance, rather than to animal problems. By the time production wrapped, Warner Brothers executives were furious at the budget overruns but trapped by Chase's contract. The film needed to gross over $60 million just to break even, making it one of the riskiest studio comedies of the decade. Those are 20 devastating secrets that shatter Christmas Vacation's wholesome image. Behind Clark's holiday disasters lay real trauma, addiction, affairs, and near-death accidents nobody discussed for decades.